Good, happy Saturday morning, March 20, 2021. I'm Riley King, and welcome to this Saturday morning edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. We have a lot of news to get to this Saturday morning, so let's begin. First up, let's take a look at your COVID-19 numbers in New Hampshire. Let's take a look at those right now. And here is a look at those COVID-19 numbers for all of you right now in New Hampshire. There are 79,996 number of people in New Hampshire have tested positive for COVID-19. There are 1,213 number of deaths from COVID-19 in New Hampshire, and there are 74 current number of hospitalizations for COVID-19 in New Hampshire. And that is a look at your COVID-19 updates in New Hampshire. Six more Granite Staters die of COVID-19. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
I think what sets us apart is the fact that our technicians live and breathe only chimneys. It's not a part of our company, it is our company. We do everything from
12.6% of the U.S. population now fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Mike Cherry. Another 10.7%, meanwhile, have just one shot. That's 3/4 of the country, though, have yet to be inoculated. But the Biden administration is celebrating a milestone of 100 million shots in the 58 days since Inauguration Day. President Biden expected to announce a new vaccine goal next week. State health officials announcing 334 new COVID cases today, 6 new deaths. 4 were linked to long-term care facilities. 74 people are in the hospital, and more than 2,300 cases are active.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. State Senator asks for investigation into deadly COVID-19 outbreak at the Tilton Veterans Home. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
What is there not to love about Franklin Pierce?
The Pierce Promise New Hampshire Scholarship Program is new at Franklin Pierce for...
Despite a review conducted by state health officials, a state senator is asking for an independent investigation into what led to a COVID outbreak at the Veterans Home in Tilton that killed dozens. Since the start of the pandemic, the Department of Health says more than 100 long-term care facilities in New Hampshire have dealt with an outbreak of COVID-19. Last spring, Senator Cindy Rosenwald says she asked DHHS to keep a watchful eye on the New Hampshire Veterans Home in Tilton because
the people who live there are very frail and old, and they're very susceptible to infectious diseases.
In November, the facility experienced a devastating outbreak. 93 residents and 99 staff tested positive. 37 residents died.
When we went and visited the Veterans Home in this situation, now it's a couple months after their outbreak has ended, we did not identify any substantial concerns that may have led to increased transmission in this facility.
According to a report by DHHS, the home checked a sufficient number of boxes for things like PPE and screening protocols, but officials could not pinpoint exactly how the virus entered the facility. That does not sit well with Senator Rosenwald, who's demanding an independent investigation. In Senate Bill 132, she's asking for $250,000 to hire an outside contractor.
To really get an in-depth view of what happened during those 2 months where about a quarter of the veterans died from COVID.
Now, in a statement to News 9, Governor Sununu's office says the review conducted by DHHS followed all CDC protocols, adding the review conducted by experts at the Department of Human Services was comprehensive and thoroughly examined all practices and protocols from the top down.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Texas man accused of kidnapping 2 girls from New Hampshire, police say. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
Summit Packaging Systems is hiring for all shifts. Summit knows stability, security, and growth are extremely valuable. You'll develop skills to succeed and earn steady income and benefits. Apply online at summitpackagingsystems.com/careers today.
Well, Mike, state police believe the suspect met the 17-year-old girl online in a messaging app and that he traveled from Texas to New Hampshire 2 days ago.
State police say a tense few hours ended here on Interstate 91 in Connecticut, where 18-year-old Cameron Snowdy from Fort Worth, Texas, was arrested. Investigators say he flew to New Hampshire on Wednesday to meet a 17-year-old girl he had been communicating with online. They believe he stole the victim's brother's car around 3 Friday morning. State police were alerted 6 hours later.
New Hampshire State Police received notification from the Swansea, New Hampshire Police Department and the Cheshire County Sheriff's Office that a possible kidnapping had taken place.
State police say Snowdy headed to New York with the 17-year-old and her 15-year-old friend.
We began tracking a cell phone device, and it alerted us to the area of New York. So before we could even get an Amber Alert issued here in New Hampshire, they had already left the state.
The 3 were then tracked by cell phone to Connecticut, where Snowdy surrendered.
Connecticut State Police were able to get out onto Interstate 91 and stop that vehicle.
The teenage girls were taken to a hospital as a precaution.
They apparently are doing well and back in the care and custody of the parents.
And Cameron Snowdy will be extradited to New Hampshire to face 2 counts of kidnapping here. Live in the studio tonight, Jean Mackin, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Overbooking forced Walgreens to turn away some vaccination appointments. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
What is there not to love about Franklin Pierce?
The Pierce Promise New Hampshire Scholarship Program is new at Franklin Pierce for high school.
The state says some pharmacies had too many appointments and exceeded capacity. They're still trying to figure out exactly why it happened. This was the scene Friday morning at the North Conway Walgreens. There was a delay in getting vaccines after the state says shots arrived late. Walgreens gets its doses directly from the federal government.
So they had to ship it from another store, but unfortunately, that took a little bit of time.
A teacher who asked us not to share her name showed up at the Bedford Walgreens for her scheduled first shot.
She said that they basically invited too many people to the party. We don't have enough vaccines for the party.
She's one of 21 people who the state says was turned away from Walgreens locations, most of them in Bedford. Officials say they reached all but 3 of them and got them shots at the state's fixed site locations.
It's frazzling and stressful to hear that this mistake had happened.
Officials say the problem was a Walgreens scheduling error unrelated to the state's new scheduling website.
It does get complicated when you have second dose appointments coming due in 4 weeks, and then you have a new schedule of first dose appointments, and we suspect the numbers might not have perfectly matched up, but we're still looking at what the actual cause was.
State vaccine coordinator Perry Plummer says they'll make sure it doesn't happen again.
This was certainly a little bit of a bump, but overall they've been a really good partner, and they will continue to be a good partner. We'll work with them to make sure that the schedule that's published is the schedule that they can handle.
Here's hoping that the system is rolling, and I know that there's lots of moving parts.
When we reached out to Walgreens, a spokesperson said they're looking into it. In Bedford, Mike Cronin, WMUR News.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. School COVID-19 guidelines relax and new CDC recommendations. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
For the easy and the complex, the small stuff and the big, we're here with the affordable local loans, easy to manage accounts, and financial advice to help you blaze a trail, figure stuff out, and make your money go farther. We're Granite State Credit Union. Live bold.
On the day the CDC is releasing new guidelines saying students can be 3 feet apart in the classroom, New Hampshire is going even further, lifting quarantine guidelines for COVID-19 exposure in schools as long as students and staff are at least 3 feet apart and consistently wear masks.
Essentially what that does is it allows many more of our students to stay in the instructional environment for longer periods of time in the event that there is some type of an exposure, because from a quarantine perspective, we're now able to allow them to remain.
The decision is based on a new study out of Massachusetts showing COVID infection rates were the same in schools that space students 3 feet or 6 feet apart as long as everyone wears a mask. The state's new guidance only applies to K through 12 schools, colleges, and universities.
The reason for that is because these settings are more structured and there's actual oversight of appropriate mask use by the teachers and other individuals in that setting.
While the CDC says staff should still keep a 6-foot distance from students, the relaxed state quarantine guidelines also apply to staff.
The transmission rate for the adults for the 6 feet is still out there. And in those other classes, those other settings, the 6 feet is still really important.
The state still recommends 6 feet of distance in schools when masks are not worn, like during lunch. Monica Hernandez, WMUR, News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Child tax credit included in relief bill might be delayed. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
What is there not to love about Franklin Pierce?
The Pierce Promise New Hampshire Scholarship Program is new at Franklin Pierce for high school seniors enrolling in the fall of 21, and it offers free tuition. You attend Franklin Pierce University tuition free.
At Franklin Pierce University, we are committed to providing New Hampshire students with affordable, quality education. Spend the next 4 years with us, meeting new friends, participating in campus activities, and preparing for your future.
Beyond stimulus payments, the American Rescue Plan Act includes an expansion of the child tax credit to $3,600 and makes it possible for people at certain income levels to receive up to half of that credit in the form of advanced direct payments. But the IRS, already burdened with the work of tax season and sending out stimulus checks, has said it will likely have to delay the planned July launch of the program.
What's the president going to do to try and get these things out and the timeline that was articulated in the act?
Well, the president's very focused on getting these direct payments and direct relief out as quickly as possible. The child tax credit, as you referenced, is going to be a huge sense of relief, I think, to families across New Hampshire and across the country. And we are working with the IRS. Our new coordinator, Gene Sperling, is working with the IRS and other economic advisors in the administration to get that out as quickly as possible. We know people need that relief now.
In a one-on-one interview with News 9, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki also said the hundreds of millions of dollars in school funding coming to New Hampshire should resolve any remaining safety concerns about in-person education.
Is it safe to say here that the expectation is that once this money is spent, that public schools should be back, as long as the pandemic continues in a positive direction, full-time, 5 days a week in the classroom?
Absolutely. And I will say that this funding, which your amount is exactly right, even a little bit more than that, I think. It's more around $360, I think, in New Hampshire. But our Secretary of Education was just here with me in the briefing room at the White House earlier this week. And his objective is getting all this money out the door, working with local school districts to reopen their schools 5 days a week as quickly as possible.
Adam Sexton, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Two former aides of Cuomo speak out on his behavior. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News.
Okay guys, Microsoft Surface Pro 7, MacBook Pro. Surface comes with the pen and touchscreen. Mac gave me this little bar, but just give me a whole touchscreen. Surface Pro has a detachable keyboard. Then there's the price. Yeah.
Now to a developing headline as we're on the air tonight, the widening scandal involving New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. The New York Times is now reporting tonight, for the first time, a current employee of the governor's office coming forward with her own allegations. Here's ABC's Ariel Reshef tonight.
Tonight, for the first time, a woman who currently works in the office of New York Governor Andrew Cuomo coming forward to accuse him of sexual harassment. Alyssa McGrath, a 33-year-old aide, says Cuomo ogled her while she was taking dictation. I put my head down, waiting for him to start speaking, and he didn't start speaking, she said, so I looked up to see what was going on, and he was blatantly looking down my shirt. McGrath tells The Times a coworker confided in her that Cuomo had groped her breast, a story that has been previously reported. Cuomo has denied ever getting physical with anyone.
I never harassed anyone. I never abused anyone. I never assaulted anyone. And I never would.
But McGrath is the 8th woman to say that's just not true. Former aide Anna Liz claims Cuomo created a toxic and abusive environment where she felt like, quote, just a skirt.
I don't think the average person in New York State would like to know that their governor is an absolute monster.
Another former aide, Lindsay Boylan, says Cuomo gave her an unwanted kiss. She tells the New Yorker's Ronan Farrow that one time at the governor's mansion, one of Cuomo's dogs jumped on her. She claims Cuomo, quote, joked that if he were a dog, he would try to mount her as well.
We unearthed emails, texts, both internal communications in the governor's office that talked about her looks and alluded to an elevated level of interest from the governor.
And David, Lindsay Boylan told the New Yorker that the governor's office tried to retaliate against her by leaking her personnel files with unflattering information to reporters. The governor's office says that was appropriate to set the record straight. David?
All right, Ariel Reshef here in New York. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stuff.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that does it for this morning edition of the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. Thank you for joining us for this Saturday morning edition. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Saturday. See you back here later on for another newscast. I'll have a news report coming up in a little bit. Goodbye, everyone.